Next up, we have Lee from Vercel. Lee, welcome.
Hey, good to see you.
Likewise.
I'm excited to chat. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, sure.
Cool. Well, I will try to keep things pretty brief and get right into things. I'm Lee. I work at Vercel. I'm the VP of Developer Experience here. And today I want to talk just a little bit about a reintroduction to Vercel for some of you who have maybe heard of us, and for those who are hearing of us for the first time, a little overview about what our platform does, and then how we support Redwood and the future of Redwood as well too. So I think for most developers tuning in, they might have noticed a shift since maybe they started developing, or in the past few years, where a lot of developers have really started to double down on front-end technologies. And I'm going to use front-end in quotes here because the lines between front-end and back-end get blurred. But the larger trend of these kind of decoupled services, or picking the best services and putting them together into frameworks, has been an increasing trend over the last, let's say, 10 years. And you can kind of tell when you look at the number of different popular developer surveys on the internet. Granted, they're only one data point, but you could also look at NPM usage as well too. So we've been thinking about this trend for a while. And back in 2016, we built a React framework. And when you look at really the larger market, and let's say the past 10 years as well too, there was a large migration of developers and companies and businesses trying to find the best possible tools to solve specific problems. So I want to understand observability. I'm going to use Datadog. Or I want to have a CRM or a tool for my sales team. I'm going to use Salesforce. And you're trying to put all of these pieces together into one unified platform that you can have a great product experience for your customers, and make it easy for your developers to actually build on your application or website. And the piece that Vercel is specifically interested in is what we're calling the front-end cloud. There's a lot of different clouds out there. There's a back-end cloud like AWS. There's your observability or your monitoring cloud. There's your analytics cloud. There's lots of clouds, right? It's all clouds now. And the part that Vercel is particularly focused on is the experience between your frameworks and how you actually deploy those to global infrastructure and the workflow that you have around those. So concretely, kind of the one sentence here is Vercel is a front-end cloud, and it gives you frameworks, workflows, and infrastructure that help you build personalized experiences. I think that's really one of the key bits that changes between a kind of static web experience or a static website and trying to build a dynamic app on the web. And really on top of that, when you look across this trend, you see there's different levels of abstraction, whether it's just running on bare metal servers somewhere, or like servers that are in your own office space for some companies, to moving some of that to the cloud, to maybe using a platform as a service, a la Heroku's of the cloud. And then what we're trying to focus on is specifically that front-end piece, and help developers building the customer-facing, product-facing side of their platform to just move really, really fast. We think that's going to help teams iterate really quickly. At AWS reInvent, there was this really awesome slide, primitives, not frameworks. And we kind of think it's interesting because we actually believe the opposite. But this makes sense because this is AWS, this is the backend cloud, right? Love this screenshot of our CTO, Malta, here. But we actually think a little bit in frameworks, not primitives. So if you look at this kind of progression over time, I shamelessly stole this slide from Malta, but back in the day, you were SSHing into a machine, or potentially worse. As time went on, we started to get better about this. DevOps grew. We had semi-automated deployments. We had the rise of infrastructure as code. And what we're really focused on right now is what we're calling framework-defined infrastructure. And we think that this is a really powerful tool for developers. So on Vercel today, we support a bunch of different frameworks, and we do that by embracing the native way of writing your framework code, including supporting Redwood. So you write your code in the Redwood way, and what Vercel is going to do is automatically provision infrastructure for you based on that code. Actually, one more bit on this, because I think, David, you were talking about this in the Q&A in the last one. I actually feel like framework-defined infrastructure is an interesting answer to cloud lock-in, because you're writing code in your open source framework native way, and then it's kind of portable to whatever. So you have, whether you want to do that in a self-hosted way or you want to do that in like a managed cloud platform way. I really feel like this is an interesting trend that I think will continue to rise going forward as well too. So on top of having this framework-defined infrastructure platform, we also give developers some other tools to make it really easy to work on their sites. So some tooling to help them iterate faster, whether that's commenting on the specific bits of your UI and saying, oh, we should change this part, or we should edit this part, and making that process easy, integrating into the rest of your kind of Git-based workflow, and just trying to make it secure as well too. And then when you deploy your code out to Vercel, we have a global edge network where you can run some compute, or you can deploy some routing rules or some security configuration. But we try to do this within the bounds of the framework. So concretely, we're trying to tackle a bunch of different pieces along this journey, from the setting up the CI/CD and handling the security and all the compute logic and databases as well too. But I wanted to like draw kind of a specific example with Redwood, so you can kind of understand how we're thinking about this. So you write your Redwood framework specific code, and Vercel has this tool called our build output API. So the outputs of Vercel go into this format of the build output API, whether it's static files, functions, routing rules, or more. And this is the framework defined bit in that transformation. Then we can take these outputs, which are standardized across basically any framework that we want to support. But of course, we're happy supporting Redwood here. And it gets deployed out to, a number of deployments on our edge network. And then you can talk to other services that we offer as well too. So maybe with your Redwood site, for example, you're using a Postgres database with Vercel Postgres. This is kind of the framework-defined infrastructure platform model that we're going with, so that product developers spend more time in their framework code kind of building these great product experiences. The other thing I just wanted to quickly mention as well too is that what we're trying to do is also stay aligned with where the Redwood community is headed with the future of Redwood, whether that's exploring the latest React features with server components, or some of the other bits of the React architecture in a similar fashion to what we've been doing over on the Next.js side. There's a lot of opportunity for us to continue supporting you all in the future vision of Redwood, and making Vercel a great platform to deploy the latest and greatest Redwood sites with global infrastructure to run your server components. And that is the blazing fast version of my talk today.
I love it. I love how easy Vercel makes it. You can just click a button and it recognizes all the things. David, what
all right,
feedback
Lee.
do you have?
All right. So more. You guys are the team behind Next, which, by the way, Redwood API is a wonderful backend for Next. You guys are doing front-end deployment, analytics, deploy to the edge, deploy serverlessly. You've got integrations for serverless database now. I'm not sure. AI, you've got AI tooling now.
Yeah.
What more, Lee? What more can you guys do? It's a lot. I've got one question. Just one question. Who's the person I should talk to about getting Redwood in bold on the framework page? That's it. That's my only question.
Yes.
My DMs.
So the ones that are bold, we have longer form framework docs pages. So I would love to work with you all on writing a framework specific docs page. I think we have like 8 right now, but there's a lot more to go. So
there might be a PR. There might be a PR you dropped that I've neglected to get back to. Over to Ellen. Great answer.
I do want to say one thing though, David, as a follow up from the last conversation as well too. We were talking a bit about like, how do you handle databases in the serverless world? Does that mean that I have to just open up a public IP and allow traffic from everywhere? And this is also something. It's something I guess we haven't really talked about a ton of, but we have a product called Vercel Secure Compute for our larger teams who can effectively solve this problem and lock down their traffic while still retaining the benefits of serverless.
All right, over to Ellen.
That we just keep moving down this continuum of giving people better abstraction over their infrastructure so they can focus on experiences. I guess one thing I feel like so many great people build on top of Vercel. Are there sites you would point us to as that you think we would find inspirational as we're thinking about what to build in Redwood, that you would go, these are like best in class examples of using Vercel?
I feel like one of the great parts about being a platform provider, being a front-end cloud, is that the diversity of the customers is just all over the board. Like, I constantly am inspired by a beautiful marketing site, or like a really, really fast dashboard, or so many just amazing AI companies building on Vercel in the last, 6 to 12 months. I think one that really sticks out to me is a customer that I love to talk about. One, because I buy their products, but two, because they also use Vercel, which is Under Armour. I bought some of their gear before for working out, and it was so interesting for me for them to be kind of like this canonical example of moving from like a monolithic application over to Vercel into our front end cloud, and just immediately seeing their revenue numbers go up. Like, that's incredible. Like, they moved over to a faster product experience, and their customers were able to spend more money on their products. And like, at the end of the day, that's really what the front end experience is all about, the product experience.
Love it.
Awesome. Peter?
Yeah, I actually have a question about your preview environments and the introduction of this Postgres, Vercel Postgres.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have a timeline or any kind of indication for when we might get preview databases for Vercel preview environments?
Yeah, it's kind of bespoke today. Like, it's possible, but it's not really a native integrated part of the workflow. It's definitely something that we want to tackle very soon. I think part of us kind of dipping our toes into having first-party integrations for storage was effectively addressing probably the most common question we would get, which is like, okay, we're solving the front-end cloud piece. How do I integrate with other tools that I really like? We want to continue making this better as well too. Maybe I want to use MongoDB with Vercel, or maybe I want to use a different database, right? We want to continue giving developers that optionality, and then also, building it really deeply into the workflow as well too. So it's definitely top of mind.
Yeah, and I mean, for historical reasons, we have these other services that just don't offer preview environments. But today, you have to. It's like the thing that everyone expects.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, just adding fuel to that. Thanks, Lee.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Lee, for joining us and making the Redwood community what it is.
Thank you.
Redwood.